All right, Doc here for the Detroit Beard Collective. Are you rocking a beard this spring, cuz? Is your beard feeling dry, scaly? Could the flyaway hairs use some taming? Does your beard have leftover food in it? You can't be rocking a beard like that these days. There's companies out there that help you groom your beard in a nice, tight way. Go to DetroitBeardCollective.com, a Detroit company that provides quality beard care products. Go to their website, DetroitBeardCollective.com, and check out the many items that they sell. Beard care sets, combs, Detroit Beard Collective t-shirts, or the very popular Beard Crate, which is a comprehensive beard care set which allows you to choose your favorite Detroit Beard Collective product, all for one great price. DetroitBeardCollective.com.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
All I want to know is if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. And I said, we strong then.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Darren McCarty gets his shots in at Quandre Diggs. And look who came all the way out to try to help. Patrick Waugh. Oh, my goodness.
You are listening to the Doc and Jock Show on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Welcome, everybody, to the Doc and Jock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my favorite co-host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
I get no step-by-step, no hanging tough, no new kid sound effects here. What's going on?
Oh, I figured I was just going to use my words to start off the bat to just roast you because...
Just go ahead, dude. It's all good.
First of all...
I'm totally comfortable in my male sexuality and everything else that goes along with me attending a New Kids on the Block concert at the age of 32. I'm good with it.
It's all good that you attended the concert with your wife. You're a good husband. You do things with your wife. But... you got to know when you're being filmed, bro. You got to know that if you're going to throw a couple back, a couple brewskis, that if you're going to rock out and sing along to the songs and scream at the top of your lungs and serenade a woman that wasn't your wife, and to have it aired on Facebook, come on, bro, violation.
For what? How's that a violation?
My God.
I was enjoying myself. I was having a great time. We got those tickets because I love the New Kids on the Block. I grew up with them. I still love them. Even as a grown-ass man, I still love them. I'm not sure if I'm a grown-ass man if I still love them, but whatever. I'm a grown-ass man. It's all right. I was just sitting there. You know what? I was just showing that I was in shape and that I knew all the lyrics just like Jordan Knight does. And if Jordan Knight keeps eating freaking King Dongs and Ho-Hos and gets any larger, they may need a new kid for the New Kids on the Block. I'm that guy. I can go in.
Step by step, ooh, baby, gonna get to you, girl.
I sat there, danced the entire night away, dude. I was sitting there doing my own little two-step shuffle, just kind of gyrating and just doing my little thing. And I squeezed up on the thick chick who was next to me, and I sat there and sang to her, and my wife loved it and taped all of it, so it was good.
Ooh, baby.
It was a good time, dude. I had a great time.
Dude, it was... it provided a lasting effect to me. So even when I'm going to the bank and people know you, I'm like, you have to ask Adam about this video. You were screaming and your wife...
Here's the thing. If you are like a 20-year-old male, anywhere from 20 to 40 years old, and you're a single man who loves women, you need to go to one of these concerts. I don't care if you like the music or not. I don't care if you like the opening band. I don't care if you like the second band. I don't care if you like any of them. I don't care if you even know their names. You need to go. Because you could just pick up chicks left and right at this place. A few years ago, I went to one of these with my sister, and we were walking through the parking lot of the Palace, trying to get across the street to what at the time was, I think it was the Post at the time. Now it's Cicerelli's. We were walking through the parking lot, picked up 2 chicks just walking through the parking lot.
Ooh, baby.
It was insane.
Hey, that's unbelievable.
My sister was like, I think she wants you. I was like, I think I have a girlfriend. She was like, when does that ever stop you? I was like, good point. Touche. Touche.
So you had a good time. And
great time.
It was a good concert overall, worth your money, worth the price of admission?
Yeah, I think so. I had a blast, dude. I had an awesome time. So, yeah, I loved it.
News not so good regarding the sporting events around town. The Detroit Tigers, have not won a game.
Suck.
They have not won a game since our last recording of our podcast. You believe that? You would think that a team with this much offensive caliber, you would think a team with the lineup that was assembled, the starters, the bullpen, the relievers, you would think that they would be a little bit more competitive at this point in time. And right now, people are gripping. Things are getting worse, and we're going to talk about the Tigers to start off the podcast. But we're also going to break down in Jock Jams later on the NBA and NHL finals. We're going to talk about the Lions a little bit, kind of peek in on what's been going on at OTAs, kind of banter regarding some issues that have kind of creeped in and we want to talk about. So good stuff to get to on this podcast. But before we kick it off, I do want to give a special thanks to the crew, Terry and the crew at Fanatic U. They gave us a great opportunity to share an event that they were doing on Tuesday night. Gustav Nyquist from the Red Wings was willing to do a signing at the Fraser store, and Terry called me up and was like, hey, we've been having some struggles with some other contests that we've been running with others. You guys have always delivered. And he called me up and was like, hey, let's give away 3 pucks, 3 winners, and 1 winner gets a bigger prize, a puck that's signed by Nyquist and a jersey. So I was like, are you kidding? Thank you. And we ran it with Twitter, and it killed a Monday night. It was great.
A success, like always, bro.
It was great.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and we got a chance to, the fans were great. They tweeted us back and were like, thank you for letting us go. I mean, we picked 1 winner that was a nurse. 1 winner was a father who had a young boy in a state jersey. He was so cute. I was like, oh my gosh, he has to be a winner. And then another winner was a gentleman who was off the chains. You know what he did? He blew up his brother's phone. He blew up his sister's phone. He blew up his cousin's phone and was like, you have to subscribe to this podcast. And all of a sudden I see on my timeline, please pick Kyle to be the winner so that he can stop blowing up our phone. And they tweeted screenshots of them subscribing to the Detroit Sports Podcast.
That's cool.
So he did some work, and we ran a good contest. I think we gave Fanatic U a lot of exposure, and from the crew here at the Detroit Sports Podcast, we just want to say we had a lot of fun doing it, and fanaticu.com is a great place. Detroit's sports outfitter. It's good stuff over there.
They do great things, great apparel, great contests. These things that they've got going on with different celebrities and different athletes around town been phenomenal.
It's all good stuff over there at Fanatic U. And like I said, the Fraser store, I've driven by several times visiting my wife's family. So it was all good. It was great, and the turnout was good. And I thank the winners who tweeted us back at Detroit Podcast. So you guys know, you followers and people who download this podcast, the Detroit Sports Podcast will send the followers to meet their heroes. We try to do our best to support those who support us. That's why this podcast and the Twitter page provides us a great opportunity to interact with you out there who are listening. So it's good stuff. All right, now we have to kind of dig in and kind of muddle through what's been going on with the Tigers. But we are not going to spend another 40 minutes dissecting what's been wrong with our Tigers. We're going to bring up the major points. But Doc and Jock, we've realized that we have to embrace solutions. We got to, unfortunately, I don't know what's been going on in the meetings with Dombrowski and Osmus and Lamont and the Brain Trust. But whatever's been coming out of those meetings hasn't been effective. So Doc and Jock are going to sit here, and we're going to come up with the solutions that are going to fix the Detroit Tigers. Now, will they implement them? No. If they were to, we would think they would be success, because we've been watching, and we're not going to sit by idly and complain while the Tigers struggle. We're going to say, listen, we have some ideas. I think we have some strong ideas that can potentially help the Tigers.
Look, we went to the junk drawer. We pulled out the duct tape, pulled out the super glue. I put my tool belt on. I'm the Tim the Tool Man Taylor. You're going to be Al Borland. We're going to fix this up. We're going to get these Tigers firing on all cylinders. That's what's going to happen here.
Because you told me in our pre-show meeting that on Tuesday's game, you really didn't peek in on it. But you missed...
They're horrible. I can't watch them.
You missed potentially one of the saddest pieces of video clip.
I know. I seen it.
Okay, so you did see it.
It's all over the place. That poor little boy.
He
caught that home run, and then he cried like a little girl because they just murdered his Tigers. His Tigers, they suck!
I thought for a second that he got hurt catching the ball or something happened. He was frustrated.
No, he's sad.
No, he was sad. It was a grand slam. And the way he kind of escalated was so priceless. I mean, he's sitting there. He's getting frustrated. He's pouting. That's kind of like we do when we're doing this podcast.
It built, bro. It built, and then he just exploded. He was like the dam that overflowed and just ran out the town and just covered everybody, murdered everybody on the way.
Can you believe the way they caught that footage on tape, made it on Sports Center? Everyone was tweeting us like, "Wow, this has to be displayed," because it was such a visceral emotion, and it kind of encapsulated what we've been feeling, what we've been talking about.
Everything up as a Tiger fan, man.
So that's all, And then what's been interesting is the Tigers, who were supposed to be great on defense, Tuesday versus Oakland, forgot how to play defense in the 7th and 8th inning. I mean, have you ever seen a play where a well-known second baseman throws the ball home on a play when they can't get an out, and all he's got to do is turn and throw to first base? I've never seen anything quite like that. I was quite surprised because it was like a no-brainer. And that just escalated, and Oakland came back and hit a grand slam and won the game. Nick Castellanos butchered a play at third base. I can't say we're surprised. I mean, that's kind of what he is. He's inconsistent. I don't know. He's been missing signs. I don't know if the mental part of the game is getting to him. I don't know if he's like becoming frazzled by his boys calling him out. I mean, Kinsler basically called him out in the postgame Tuesday night, said, hey, we had an easy out at third base. Quite interesting that he would do that, knowing that he butchered a play. The Tigers are doing things on their own. I mean, Brad Ausmus comes out and was like, the two batters that bunted back-to-back were like, was it, I think, Ghosts and someone else bunted back-to-back, and he was like, well, they bunted on their own. And you get a sense.
My bigger question is, what is Brad Ausmus doing? Why does he not have their full attention? Why do you have batters going up there doing whatever batters want to do? You're the head coach. You're the man. Why aren't you standing up in that locker room, throwing over the banquet table at the end of the game and telling them if they were worth a damn, they'll play like it. Otherwise, you can eat off the floor. Why isn't he throwing a tantrum?
To answer your question, why? All credit to Vito Jerome, who filled in for Jarvie and Stubbs. He said it, and we talked about it. Right now, you have a question as to whether Brad Ausmus has the command of the locker room.
I don't think he has their attention.
I think you have to manage the team. And a lot of things that we're going to talk about involve him doing stuff, doing more. And right now, when the team is struggling, you're looking at, okay, what are some of the things that are being attempted? And finally, at Tuesday's game, after a day off, they adjusted the lineup, which we're going to talk about as one of our solutions to potentially fix these problems. But right now, collectively as an offense, they're not playing well. Defensively, they're having these weird lapses that are costing them runs. And right now, we're only scoring 2-3 runs a game. When you're not scoring a lot of runs are a premium. At this point in time, the ability to score consistently is a problem. So on defense, when you make mistakes like that, like Kinsler did and like Castellanos did, you see the direct result.
Do they not look lazy to you on defense right now? It just looks like they're maybe absent-minded, maybe as though they don't have their heads collectively in it.
No, I think the other way. I think they have their heads way too much in it. I think right now they're gripping, they're pressing.
Yeah.
I think right now that the team is realizing, okay, we started the season 11-2, and since then we've gone 17-23. And another stat that I want to bring up that really sheds to light what kind of team this is: when the 7th inning ends and they don't have a lead, no wins this year. Mm-hmm. When the 8th inning ends and they don't have a lead, no wins this year. So this team, if they're not leading the game, has not had a comeback win. When they're trailing, they have not won a game after the 7th and 8th inning. That's quite unbelievable. And a nugget that someone tweeted me and texted me was, you really wouldn't think that the loss of Torrey Hunter was not that big a deal. But you start to see that his maybe leadership and his presence in that locker room has really affected kind of collectively the unit. So maybe his salary wasn't worth it in terms of his abilities on the field and his abilities with his bat, but his leadership and his ability to kind of bring the guys together and say things to potentially motivate them in later innings. We may be missing Torrey Hunter more than we estimated.
Now, couple that with Victor Martinez going out, and I think we both can agree that Victor Martinez is the overall leader of this team. He's down in Orlando rehabbing, so he's not in the locker room. All these things start to you see them now on the field. It starts to play out. It starts to play out with bad defense, lazy defense, maybe pressing defense, whichever one you want to subscribe to. It shows in the lineup when the guys can't hit, when the guys are choosing to bunt instead of hit, when guys are making decisions up at the plate by themselves, when you start calling into question whether or not the manager has the ear of the locker room, whether or not he can actually get through to these guys. Yeah, I think those are all valid points. I think those are great points. And then you've got issues going on from a front office standpoint where you're bringing in guys like a Daniel Fields who's getting his call up, and now you're losing a guy like Hernan Perez who is getting picked up off waivers. This now creates an issue. What are your thoughts on that?
Real fast before I get to your point. And
I see you smiling over
Oh, my
there.
gosh.
I see you smiling. What's going on?
Our Twitter page is unbelievable, at Detroit Podcast. A follower, at 84 Tigers Detroit, has come up with a shirt and a website, firebrad.com, and that was posted to us.
That's a sexy picture of Brad Osmus right there.
You got to believe that people are already starting to make rumblings regarding firing Brad Osmus. It's to that point. People are not happy, and we've talked about it. I don't want to belabor the point, but right now, cuz the followers are not happy. They're ready to take Brad Osmus out and dump him to the curb. Refresh my memory. What did you just say now? What question did you ask?
Oh, I was asking about Hernan Perez and Daniel Fields, the call-up of Daniel Fields, and what impact you think that might have on this lineup, and the overall loss of a guy like Hernan Perez, who I don't think is a major league player, but I think he's probably one of those 4A players, one of those guys who he's a little bit streaky at the plate, but he gives you good enough defense to where you can plug him in situations, and you had to say goodbye to him because you called up a guy like Daniel Fields because you needed to make room on your roster.
You bring him up, and people are like, oh, okay, you're trying to tinker, you're trying to make moves, and everyone's like, okay, good. And then in a game like that versus Oakland, you don't put him in. Kinsler makes a horrible play. You don't yank him out immediately. I mean, you don't see plays like that. That really is a Bush League, Little League type of play that he made. You can't underestimate that. That play was really bad. You were willing to yank Castellanos when he missed signs last week, but you weren't willing to pull out Kinsler. We don't get a chance to see what he's got. And, right now, I don't see that he's going to, I don't see a Daniel Fields coming in and making an immediate impact, but something is needed to take place in order to shake these guys out of their slump. I'm glad they called him up. A lot of people are feeling like, you kind of put the blame on Perez, and that was kind of weak to kind of drop your 25th guy and kind of tell us like, hey, we're cutting Hernan Perez and sending him down, and we're okay with him leaving. But he wasn't hitting, so his loss for us is kind of meaningless. He may turn out to be a solid player, but it's one of those situations where a new start, a new team, more playing time will help Perez. With us, it just didn't work out. So
I'll be honest with you. When the news came across that Hernan Perez was released and picked up by the Brewers, I was actually really pissed off about it because I think that guy, he's one of those young guys who has enough talent to make a major league roster. He might not be an everyday starter, but I think he has enough talent to make an everyday roster. I think he's a great piece where you can sub him in later in innings because defensively he's going to give you something. And it might not be an everyday something, but he can sit there and be situational for you. I don't know what Daniel Fields is. I don't even know if Daniel Fields is going to be a good major league player, whereas I know Hernan Perez will at least be in a lineup. Daniel Fields is struggling or was struggling down in AAA. And I don't think Daniel Fields necessarily deserves the call-up right now, and not at the expense of losing a guy like Hernan Perez. And then Daniel Fields doesn't even get into the game last night. With Hernan Perez, you could have sat there and at least subbed him in for Kinsler when Kinsler was sitting there defecating all over second base. I don't like the moves that the front office is making. Again, head scratchers. What's going on with this team? What's going on with this lineup? Why are we doing these things? I don't like it, and I don't think Daniel Fields is an equal substitute for Hernan Perez.
Okay, I want to ask you this. Now, we're going to start talking about improvements. We're going to start talking about how to improve this team. We're not going to sit here and complain any further. It does us no good. We all know.
It does us absolutely no good.
We are all watching
Just
what's
beats
going
our
on.
head against the table.
So hopefully what separates us is we're going to come up with some good, decent solutions. So first things first, it's quite obvious. Without Victor Martinez, this lineup is right-handed heavy. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need a left-handed bat. That's one easy solution, is to go out there and find anybody that can be productive and hit over a 250 clip and get a left-handed bat in this lineup to kind of help, because teams that are overly reliant upon right-handed bats tend to struggle a little bit. You don't have that balance. So first I want to ask you, are you confident, and that's what Fields provides, I believe, in terms of a left-handed bat. Are you confident that this team can maybe overcome this within? Or should, in the near future, Dave Dombrowski start to look for outside help? Because there's a player in Philadelphia who I kind of had my eye on, who has a decent contract that the team may be willing to let go of and eat some of that contract and let us get. My first...
Does his initial start with an R and H?
My first plan to help the Tigers is to go out and trade and figure out a way to bring in Ryan Howard to this lineup.
Of course you would say Ryan Howard.
he's got to, he's been coming back. Last year was a struggle. He was inconsistent, but this year he's hasn't been that bad.
That sounds promising. When you started off with, he hasn't been that bad. Now let me give you some stats. That sounds super promising for everybody involved here. Sounds great. Go ahead. Tell me about Ryan Howard. Tell me how he's not been that bad.
What are you talking about? You haven't been watching lately? He seems rejuvenated. His bat seems to have a little bit more pop than normal. And he's on a team right now, Philadelphia, that's going nowhere. So they may be willing to take a Daniel Fields or take someone off our hands in order to get him. You need a left-handed bat. And Ryan Howard had success in the past. He's had his ups and downs. He's owed $60 million through the end of next season.
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But they may not ask for a lot to take that off the books.
All right, so what are you going to do with Ryan Howard if you get him here? Because he's a first baseman. Do you see him? I don't see him supplanting Miguel Cabrera. Do you just use him strictly as a DH and maybe a rotational first baseman then?
You got it. The plan would be, in Detroit, he would DH until Martinez returns.
Okay.
Then play first after, moving Cabrera back to third. And in my opinion...
So now you're going to sit there
and now, in my opinion,
Castellanos
kind of has to go back to the bench. He hasn't earned his spot in the lineup defensively or offensively. So that would be my initial plan if Howard were to come in, would be to stick him in a DH until Martinez returns.
Dude, I hate that because you're moving too many pieces around. You've got Miguel Cabrera, I think is an average to above average first baseman. I think he does a great job defensively at first base. On top of that, you know what you're getting from him from the plate. All right, and I think we all agree Castellanos at third, it's not working out. It doesn't look like it's going to work out. It's a little bit unfair to that guy because he was brought in initially as a third baseman, and they moved him all around. They shuffled him up and down the lineup, trying to sit there and figure out what they were going to do because Cabrera was playing third. But I think if you move Cabrera from first and kick Castellanos out and have Cabrera now start to play third again, I think that's too much. I think you have not necessarily a gold glove first baseman in Miguel Cabrera, but you have a better than league average first baseman there. The guy makes unbelievable plays on the regular, and you're going to do that to move in a guy who's batting .244. I mean, I know he's got some power, but Ryan Howard isn't what Ryan Howard used to be. Ryan Howard isn't the guy who deserves, what'd you say, he has $60 million left on that contract? He isn't a guy who deserves that $60 million right now. So why are you going to trade for a guy like that? I don't think that works out. For right now, where this team is at, and I think for the salary cap and for the salary issues that they have moving forward, I think you got to look within. I think you just got to reshuffle this batting lineup a little bit. And we can talk about trade possibilities down the line, but I don't think you need to absorb any more cost because you're already shelling out a ton of money. You got a guy like Verlander who's making, $28 million right now. He's not even on your roster. He's down in Toledo trying to get things figured out. You got a guy like Miguel Cabrera who's a $30 million man. There's talks that they want to try to work something out with David Price. Who knows if that's going to happen? You got Ian Kinsler, who's got a monster contract. Martinez has a huge number attached to his name. So I don't think you need to go out and bring in any more guys who have monstrous contracts attached to them. I think what you do is you do something like this. All right, I'm going to give you my batting lineup if I was Brad Ausmus. All right, and tell me if you like this. Tell me if you don't. I would go Ghost first, Iglesias second. I would bat Cespedes third. And I would move Cabrera back to 4. I think by moving Cabrera back, Cespedes starts to see more pitches that he likes, that he can hit, and if anything, he gets on base more. All right, more runners. It just has to translate to more runs coming in. It has to. I think JD Martinez then protects Cabrera until Victor Martinez comes back. Kinsler's struggling right now, so you move him down, you get him at 6th. And then 7 and 8, I just feel like it could be any combination of these three guys. At this point, you got Collins, you got Fields, and you got Castellanos. And you can sit there and every day you can rotate somebody different for 7 and 8 between those three players. And I think McCann closes you out with 9. I really like what McCann's bringing to the table. I think he's provided some stability at catcher at the plate. You know, he might not call as great of a game as Avila does, but he gives you a little bit more pop out of the bat, hits a few more balls, can run them out a little bit better. I think he gives you a little bit more stability there. By moving Cespedes up and having him take Cabrera's spot, moving Cabrera back, yes, Cabrera's not getting as many at-bats, which is why you have him playing in the third spot. It helps light a fire underneath Cespedes, gets him a few more pitches that he likes to see, and allows Cabrera maybe to drive more runs in.
Okay, no, you have a fair plan. So the first question that I posed, you are thinking more that immediate relief would probably come from within, moving the lineup around, taking some players out, moving some players around. And whereas I'm of the mindset of, hey, let's just get some other guys. I've seen enough of this, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we've kind of debated is who's to blame, Ausmus or Dave Dombrowski, because you could say, well, Osmus can't take a guy like Kinsler out of the lineup. He can't take Castellanos because you're going to put in what? Romine, a Fields, this new utility guy, Wilson, unproven. So it's one of those things where Brad Osmus is in the crosshairs, and he really doesn't have a lot of great options within the organization to pull themselves out. If you're not going to go out and make some trades at this point in time, they're obviously at the trade deadline. If they believe they have a team that can go far, this could bottom out. This could bottom out and get worse. But if they feel like, okay, we can make the playoffs and make a run, I believe they're going to add some pieces. They're going to have to. But if you're not going to, then if Castellanos is going to be down, then you're going to have to, spot start Romine a little bit more, put in this new utility player. You're going to have to start telling the boys, hey, if you're not going to produce, if you're going to be in a 2-for-22 slump, if you're going to slump significantly for a whole month, like a Kinsler, like Castellanos, you can't be in the lineup every single day. So you're going to have to spot start someone. And if you're not going to make a move, then I agree. You got to put in Romine here and there, and you got to use this new utility guy that they got.
Tell me if you don't like something like this, because I think this helps you in the field, and I think this helps you at the plate as well. Why not play Romine, start him at third base? He's a much better fielder than Castellanos, and even though he's been limited to his at-bats, he's got a much better batting average than 90% of this team right now. So the guy's making contact. And why not just move Castellanos into your DH spot until Martinez gets healthy? Try that for a little bit. Maybe that kind of shakes a few cobwebs loose on Castellanos, makes him realize, hey, I got to do a much better job in the field. I got to get my act together. And he still provides you with a little bit of power at the plate. Because when I watch, and it's been limited lately because they're a hard watch, Castellanos every now and then has a timely hit. I don't know if he just runs into one when I'm watching, but I feel like he sits there and he has the power, has the capability, and he can sit there and get runners in. He just does a bad job in the field right now. So I think maybe you put Romine out there, let him play in the field at third, and hope you get some production from Castellanos later in the innings, somewhere right around, put him at 8. Let him bat 8.
Did you see the debut of Joey Gallo for Texas?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Okay,
that guy.
Now, okay.
Why don't we have a player like that anywhere?
Everyone says, well, we haven't been bad enough to draft like that.
That's BS, dude.
Okay, well, exactly. Now, I've been saying this now for weeks, and again, another player comes up and has a monster debut. Now, it's just his first game, but dude's swing was ferocious, and the stories of him and playing with Bryce Harper, his swing was ferocious last night in his debut. Unbelievable swings.
Did he go 3 for 4?
3 for 4 with a home run.
With a home run,
second
a single, and a double. Dude,
3 for 4 for Nick Castellanos might take a whole week.
Oh my God, yeah, dude, he was outstanding. I seen it. It was beautiful. I don't know why we don't have guys like that. Actually, I do know why we have guys like that. It's because Dave Dombrowski doesn't draft players like that. Doesn't sit there and set us up to do that. Because once he finds something that he likes, he goes out, trades away our entire farm system. Which brings me to my next point. So we're still struggling come trade deadline time, right? We're sitting there hovering around third, and we're maybe 3 or 4 games, maybe 5 games back. Do you contemplate trading David Price, and what do you trade him for?
This is a topic that people are a little bit unwilling to talk about, or when they make a stance, they're firm. Nobody's kind of in the middle. People are just kind of making their stand and saying, listen, you're going to need a number 1 starter, and people like what they see with David Price. So if you're, it really depends on your viewpoint. If you want to win this season or the next year, and if your mindset is, we don't care what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years, if you don't care, then you have to bring David Price back at $25 to $30 million, whatever that range may be. Now, myself, I am trying to look at what's going on now and also what's going on in the future. So with that mindset, I think it's time to consider letting David Price go and getting your king's ransom. You could get potentially 2 starters that are serviceable and a fielder or a player that has power. You could get a lot from a team that is potentially willing to trade with you. He has trade value, which you don't have right now too much of on this team with contracts, with age, and things like that. So you really don't have too many pieces of, you don't have too many weapons that you can trade off to get in return. So if this team wants to look for the long-term future, then you could trade Price and get a couple players that could do some damage. Who that may be, I'm not really sure. But if you're in the mindset of, hey, we got to win now, win this year, we don't care what happens in the next 5 years, then you got to keep them and sign them to an extension.
I think you absolutely trade David Price. Doesn't matter. because I can't see another player fitting on this roster at a $25 to $30 million price tag. I just can't see it. If you do that, you're in the same spot you were at a few years ago with this team, where you had so many big contracts that you had nobody else to fill in anywhere else. And by adding him, you're going to do the same damn thing. And why not trade him away at the trade deadline so he doesn't just walk out the door like Max Scherzer did? Max Scherzer, at that time, you could have traded away and you could have got a king's ransom. Instead, he walked out the door for $212 million over 10 years or whatever his ridiculous contract was. Trade David Price. I think you get some young prospects in here. You rebuild this farm system, and you maybe get a guy who can start now. I think you go out and you maybe get a number 2 or a number 3 starting pitcher for David Price, and you get 1 or 2 top prospects to another team who's in win now mode. I don't even care if it's Kansas City. Kansas City feels like they were right there and they should have won it all last year. I feel like you trade David Price away to a few guys in their farm system, and you maybe get a guy who's starting for them right now, plug him in. I think that works out great. Right. And especially with a guy like Justin Verlander, who we're going to talk about, who's down in Toledo struggling. And I need to know if this causes you concerns or not. I know you have something to say, so go ahead. Say what you got to say.
I was going to say, we'll check in with the Twitter mailbag. Twitter's kind of blown up on us, responding to our question about how to fix the Tigers. At JoeBoo3 tweeted us, they need to wait it out. It's frustrating, but calling for guys' heads isn't the answer. Baseball is a long season. At March of the Owls on Twitter, when the Tigers suck with a healthy Verlander, V-Mart, even Rondon, then I'll panic. At R. Lavere 03 tweeted us. He said, I wish I could call. I need more than a phone call, though, for the Tigers. Maybe an hour or so to touch on everything. Individuals out there who are watching the Tigers definitely have a reason to panic. I don't think it's just fans being fans, because when you look at the bigger picture, this team now, for the last 40 games, 17-23. They haven't been playing well. They are making some key mistakes, and we are all now waiting to see, okay, when these guys come back, JV, Victor Martinez, Rondon, there's no guarantee they're going to be good. So I know we're all excited to say, oh, they're going to come back. I'm tempered by my excitement when you kind of talk to other people and you kind of look at things, you go, oh yeah, JV threw 79 pitches in a minor league start.
And
that's not good.
2/3 innings.
And now some people will say,
brutal.
Some people will say, well, don't worry about that. He came out of it healthy, but he didn't have command
at all.
He was plunking people.
And I know that he's working on things, but still, I don't care what you're working on. You're supposed to be the ace of this staff. You're supposed to be, if anything, the number 2 on this staff behind David Price. And you can't get through 3 innings of work in Toledo without damn near killing guys and getting hit. And from what I understand and from what I hear, because I wasn't at the game, but word on the street is he was very upset, visibly upset with himself. He was cussing out loud. People in the stands could hear him swearing. That's how frustrated he was. And now you have to go ahead and do another rehab start this Saturday? Dude.
It's concerning.
It's very concerning.
And I mean, now I heard a comment on the radio. I can't remember who said it, but the comment was, I think it was a guest on a radio station, came on and said, well, maybe you have to temper your expectations with JV now. Maybe he's not going to be a starter that's going to go 7 to 8 innings. Maybe he can just be the guy in the 3rd or 4th in the rotation that can go 60 to 75 pitches and bring you stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, if that's what the new expectations could be, it's going to be a very...
So we got a $30 million, 4th, 5th starter, maybe a bullpen guy? Is that what we end up with here?
That's the biggest fear. That's the fear that's keeping me squirming in my seat here talking about this. We need JV to come back to be the JV of old. And it's going to take time. I don't think he's going to come in right away after 2 rehab starts and just light it up. That would be amazing. Now, he hasn't been on the DL in 10 years. This is his first kind of foray into this, so we don't know what it's going to look like when he comes back. But I can't sit here comfortably and say that when he comes back, it's going to be good. So I'm really nervous. I'm starting to get very nervous regarding the future of the Tigers this season. It could bottom out. I mean, they could right the ship. They could win the series versus Oakland. There's still 2 games left. But right now, the struggles seem to be kind of alarming. And once one is resolved, new issues keep popping up.
What do you think the next step for Justin Verlander is? So Saturday, he's going to pitch a game in Toledo. And I think they're hoping that he can stretch out his less than 3 innings to maybe 4, 5, 6 innings. Maybe sit there, and I think they're going to keep him at a pitch count probably right around 85 to 90. But when he comes up, because I don't think Justin Verlander's ego is going to allow him to have a 3rd rehab start in Toledo. So he's going to come up and he's going to pitch with the big boys. Do they bring him up? Do they have him work in a long bullpen session? Do they just go right to the bullpen and have him pitch long relief? Because I don't think he's able to start right now. My biggest concern is sticking him in the starting lineup and him getting rocked and him sitting there trying to dial it up and blow his arm completely out of the water, and then we're right back to this. So I think you maybe take him. I think you sit him down, you talk to him, you have a long conversation with him. You say, Justin, we're going to have you pitch out of the bullpen. I know the mindset's a little bit different, but we're going to have you pitch long relief out of the bullpen just for 1, maybe 2 games. Get you acclimated, get you used to it, and we're going to go from there. It's kind of a day-by-day basis until you feel really comfortable with this guy and you're able to get 80 pitches out of him from a starting position.
I don't see him accepting that on any kind of level.
I don't either, but I think this is what has to happen. I think at some point, ownership has to sack up and has to come to the table, and they have to set their balls on the table and say, Justin, this is what we're doing, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, you have to accept this. Because right now, the way you're pitching and the command that you're showing and the things that you are telling us and the way that you're feeling, you're a $30 million investment every year for this team. You are supposed to be the stud of this rotation. And right now, we can't even plug you in as a 4th or 5th starter.
If you want him to pitch in long relief in the bullpen, I would say then the better option would be just to give him the 3rd start in the minors. I don't think that he is going
But he won't accept that, I don't believe.
I think he'll accept that over going to be on the line.
If he'll accept that, then I think you do that.
We didn't believe that he would even take the 2nd start.
That's true.
So
that's absolutely true.
If you want to consider this a long-term investment, a long-term process, you just kind of frame it in a way, hey, this is your spring training. You're going down to the minors. You're working this out. The checks are still clearing. You're still making a boatload of money. Get it right. We want to see you have a sense of command, a sense of control. Let's just keep seeing you throw 80 pitches without pain. If you get through the 2nd and 3rd and they're somewhat decent and he doesn't get totally embarrassed, you bring him up and you make him the start. You make him a starter, a 3rd or 4th starter, and see how he does, and then reevaluate. That's, I think, the more realistic plan is maybe have that 3rd rehab start and then bring him up to the big leagues and see what happens.
I think you're right, but I just don't see his ego allowing him to play another game in Toledo. I think they really had to coax him into sitting there, taking this start on Saturday and pitching for the Mud Hens. I just don't see him willingly taking this, and no matter how they frame it. This would have to be one of those things where they go to the public and say, we want Justin to pitch another start down in Toledo. We just don't feel like he's ready to come up here. But Justin doesn't want to do it. It's on Justin at this point. I think that's how they'd have to come out, and they'd have to frame it with the media and with the fans. And I think the fans would back the organization. I don't think there's one fan in Detroit right now who feels 100% comfortable that they're going to get a Justin Verlander of old, even get a shell of the Justin Verlander of old. I think what the fans want before Justin Verlander takes that mound, I think they want him at 100%. I don't think they want Verlander coming back at 95, 97%, giving you a taste of what he could be. Give me what he used to be or something that he is, not what he might be.
Now, before we take a break, your confidence level that the Tigers are going to turn this around. Is it time? Are we over-analyzing? Is it time to panic? Have you been concerned now with this last week, losers of 5 straight and not playing a good brand of baseball? Is it time to maybe start looking a little bit more intently at what the hell is going on with the organization, with management, who's managing the team, who's on the team? Do you believe this team can get out of this slump that they're in?
I think this team has the stars, and I think they have the power to right the ship. I don't think all of this lays at Brad Ausmus's feet, though. Brad Ausmus has a lot to do with it. I think he needs to start holding players accountable. I think he needs to start busting heads a little bit. I don't think we would have seen this or we'd be having this discussion if a guy like Jim Leyland, who has the credibility and the credentials as a manager, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. I know we had conversations like this with Jim Leyland, but at this point in the season, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. Brad Ausmus has to look at himself, has to kind of maybe start to right the ship a little bit, maybe bust a few heads, and I think they will turn this around. I think they will pull it around. I think once you get a healthy Justin Verlander, if he comes back 100%, I think once you get a healthy Victor Martinez just in the locker room, I think his presence in the locker room changes a lot of things. I don't think the silliness that goes on a day-to-day basis happens when Victor Martinez is there, which makes me upset because a guy like Miguel Cabrera, who's been there, done that, has all the accolades and could command the room, I would feel like he would step up and he would be more of a presence in that locker room, but it doesn't appear that he is. I think they will right the ship, though.
To sum up right now, what's going on with the Tigers? Their play has made kids cry in the stands. Jock is not watching games. He's going to New Kids on the Block concerts. People on the radio are talking about women's softball. This is what is going on because of our Tigers.
This is what the Tigers have brought us to.
I've never really, besides Jenny Finch, and when back in the day when she blew up because, let's just be quite honest, she rated up 7 to 8 on the scale of 10. She was a very good-looking woman. I never am going to turn into softball, even if it's my Sparties.
What are you talking about, dude? You need to check out Arizona State. You need to check out Florida. You need to check out UCLA.
Not happening.
There's hot chicks all over the place.
It's drawing ratings.
With some eye black, too.
2 million fans.
Boy.
2 million people watched a softball game on ESPN. They're blowing it up.
I know I'm not the only perv out there who watches softball.
That's
women's
probably
softball for that reason.
Okay, it's probably one of the reasons.
It's like the only reason to watch it.
So,
it's outstanding.
I, unlike you, am a glutton for punishment. I am now looking deeper at some of the woes. I'm watching each and every game, and I'm trying to say, okay, I'm not happy. I'm getting beat up, but I think it's going to make me stronger to watch each and every game, despite our losing, because we've been spoiled. We've won a lot of games. We've come back. We've had a lot of walk-offs. We've had a lot of positive memories for our Tigers. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with them. I don't want to believe that Vinny Stubbs called 81 and 81 and was correct. Host of the Motor City Sports Rant on Mondays. But he called it. He said, I don't like this team from before the season started. He came on a podcast on a Monday and said, I see this team being 81 and 81. And we were all like, no, you're crazy. But as of right now, he's sitting looking strong with his take. Let's hope they turn it around. Let's hope some of the solutions that we came up with are potentially in the mix. Maybe a Ryan Howard, maybe another pickup of someone that we don't know about. There has to be some improvement. There has to be some reinforcements on the way. I truly believe that. All right, stay with us. After this quick break, pay some bills, talk about our sponsors. We're going to play a round of Jock Jams and revisit and talk about some of the other news going on in the sports world. Stay with us. Doc and Jock, podcast number 95, Detroit Sports Podcast.com. All right, cuz, let's check in with one of our favorite sponsors, Sport Displays Jersey Mount. The Sport Displays Jersey Mount are the easiest and most affordable way to proudly show off your favorite jersey, uniform, sweater, t-shirt, or costume. With its unique design, Sport Display Jersey Mounts are the only hangers on the market that can be mounted to any surface. This allows for easy access to your favorite jersey on game day by simply snapping the rod into or out of the holder. You've got yourself an Anthony Mantha jersey, you want to hang it up. If you have a Steve Yzerman jersey, and if Tampa Bay wins the Stanley Cup, he not only is a great executive, you want to hang up his Detroit Red Wing jersey in your office, simply snap the jersey mount on and off. It's easy to use. The jersey mount really adds to any man cave. Sport Display jersey mounts are affordable, easy to install. They can be mounted anywhere to both wall or ceiling. If you want, go to jerseymount.com/Detroit-sports-podcast and get a jersey mount and get 5% off. Visit jerseymount.com and check out a really great product that really adds to any man cave. jerseymount.com. Get 5% off. If you're a fan of Michigan, cuz, then you have to check out uofmdiehards.com. Check them out on Twitter. Check out their Facebook page. They are a page that's dedicated to all things University of Michigan. They follow every game. They follow recruits. They have great interviews. uofmdiehards.com. Doc and Jock, check out that website quite a bit. If you're a fan of Michigan, there's no better website to check out than uofmdiehards.com.
I'm go blue, baby.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your support. Lots of ways to support us here at the podcast. If you like what you're listening to, if you enjoy the podcast, if you want us to continue to provide great content every Monday and Thursday, if you want us to continue to take phone calls, just go to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Click through those banner links. Lots of great online deals. I know everybody that's listening likes to save money. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Click through those banner links, bookmark them, and every time you shop online, nothing extra happens. You get charged no more money. But when you shop online through DetroitSportsPodcast.com, they kick us back a little something, and we can continue to provide great content. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate it. Yes, sir. Welcome back.
What is that crap?
I have not yet had the ability with my schedule to check in on Monty Python, but it could happen in the next week. So, speaking of next week, you are not going to be here, bro.
I won't be here.
You are first to tap out. We've done this 95 consecutive weeks. I thought we probably would get to about 80 before you or I would be like, we can't tell you this anymore. We got to take a break. But we got to 95, so claps and applause to us. But next week, you're like, I need a vacation. Your ass is leaving the country. Where the hell are you heading? What the hell's going on?
I don't even know if I'll have internet where I'm at. Otherwise, I'd call in via Skype and we could do it over Skype, but I don't know what the setup's going to be. So I think it's best if we just plan on somebody else filling in for me while I'm away. I'm going to be in the Dominican Republic. I'm going to be putting my creamy white thighs in some hot sand and tanning myself. Me and the wife were finally taking our honeymoon. We did get married a few years ago there, and we did have the big celebration last year. So this year, we're finally going to take our honeymoon and go enjoy ourselves. And like I said, I don't know what the setup's going to be in the Dominican Republic. I mean, I don't know what their internet connection's like, and I don't know what any of that's like. Otherwise, we do it like we did when we were in Brazil.
You know what? Detroit,
and I would call you.
You know what? Detroit needs you.
They need me?
You know what Detroit needs you to do?
What's that?
We need your ass to scout. Go find some baseball stadiums. Go find.
I'm gonna go scout the Dominican team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
go
for
scout.
sure.
Go find the kids playing. Go find two parts. Go find the next Miguel Cabrera, or go find the next Cespedes. Find the next, superstar player from the Dominican. Report back and make sure you take some
Miguel
pictures.
Cabrera's from Venezuela, by the way.
Hey, it's all the same.
Cespedes is from Cuba.
It's all the same.
It's all anything south of Miami. It's all the same.
Or if the trail goes cold,
Yes.
find a Latin-speaking manager that has potential.
Okay.
A guy that people are talking about is, hey, this is the next guy that's going to blow up.
Okay.
The next Ozzie Guillen or the next guy that...
Dude, how would you love having Ozzie Guillen as a Tiger manager? I think it'd be great.
It'd be great for the media, for sure. We talked about it.
Ozzie
He would be.
He's crazy.
He would have been throwing stuff by now. He would have done something similar to what Lloyd McClendon did. Instead, Brett Ausmus is just kind of, chilling.
He's laid back, dude. He's in his board shorts. What I did hear, though, is most of the beaches are topless. So I'll be going topless and looking for topless women as well. So I will report back on that when I come back.
Okay, I can't wait to hear. Probably will be episode 97 when you return, and we will chat it up. Can't wait.
Yes, sir.
All right, you ready for a round of Jock Jams?
I can't wait.
All right, this is where the doc presents 3 great questions to the jock, and he brings the noise, brings strong information, strong takes, in what we call Jock Jams. All right. In reaching out beyond sports, Bruce Jenner finally came out, and on, I believe it was Monday, it kind of was shocking. He came out in his new persona. Caitlyn Jenner presented herself to the world on Twitter and picked up 1 million followers in like less than 4 hours. It's a topic that a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are wondering, what impact is this going to have? How should we approach a situation like this? How do we look at this? But in your opinion, Bruce Jenner transformed this spring, like he said he would, into Caitlyn Jenner. What was your reaction and when you saw it, and your opinion on what his impact will be by making this transformation in such a public fashion?
I think this is a big deal for alternative lifestyles, for the transgender community, for the gay, lesbian, transsexual, transgender, all of them. I think this is a monumental movement, and it's a great push forward, and it's a big slap in the face to what I would call white America, which is just very much cornbread, cookie, just it's very basic. This is shocking to the system. I think it's a good thing. I think it's very good for that. As far as, is it a big deal? Is it a story? Is there something there? I don't really think there is. I just think that this is a person who wants to go ahead and live their life. They want to go be free. They want to get out there, and they want everybody to say, hey, look at me. This is who I am now. I'm not the epitome of what used to be a male back in 77 when he won the Olympics?
76.
76. I'm not that guy. I'm not that person anymore. I am a woman. Call me, use he, she, no more. It's just she. Use those pronouns. I'm that person. I think this is a big thing. I think it's a monumental step forward in the world because it now has a face. The transgender community now has a face. They have somebody that they can point to, somebody to kind of pick up their torch and kind of be the flag bearer of that. And this will be difficult. This isn't going to be easy for Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner, whoever it is that you want to refer to them as. This isn't going to be easy. And for Caitlyn Jenner to sit there and transform herself from a male to a female took a lot of, excuse the pun, but a lot of balls that probably aren't there anymore. So it was, and I say that with all seriousness, it is a big deal because there is something there. There is a community there that needs to be represented, that is underrepresented and is often laughed about or mocked about or joked about, and that's not fair to them. So I think this is a big deal on that aspect. Overall, I think what's going to happen now, I think, is a non-story, and I think that the way that the Jenners and the Kardashians get their money by selling everything to a reality show, I think is a non-story. And I think that kind of tarnishes the movement and what they were trying to accomplish. So I think it's twofold, and I think initially it's all done with well intentions, but I think in the end it's going to be mocked and laughed at, which is sad.
Yes, for all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
And now she lives her life, and let's see what happens. I agree with you. Too much, I think, coverage, but in the end, she felt like this position needed to be championed, and she can do great work championing this position, and all you can do is give her credit.
I hope it all works out. I really do.
That's all. Switching gears, much more pertinent to us topics going on in the world of sports. The NBA and the NHL have gotten down to their final two. The championship series have started. The NBA finals, the NHL final is ready to kick off. Let's start with the NHL because I know you're definitely chomping at the bit to check out Game 1 to see what's going to happen. You got Chicago Blackhawks, who arguably have been the best team in the new salary cap era, looking for their third Stanley Cup since 2010, going up against a team that won the Stanley Cup back in 2004, but locally has drawn interest because of Steve Yzerman. Great GM, has put together a strong team. They're in the Cup finals with a rookie goaltender, Bishop. What's your take on the series, and who's going to come out with the Stanley Cup?
I want Tampa Bay to win strictly for Steve Yzerman. I love Steve Yzerman. My house is a shrine dedicated to Stevie Y. When I play hockey, I wear number 19 because of Steve Yzerman. I don't conduct myself the same way he does. I'm a freaking maniac when I'm out there. But that being said, I want Tampa Bay to win. I think Chicago is going to win their third Stanley Cup, though. I think there's too much firepower there. Offensively and defensively, they are way too skilled. And I think the way that they play the game, they like to stretch you out and they like to hit that long pass. Tampa Bay does it almost as good as Chicago does it. That was one of the ways Tampa Bay was able to beat the Wings, was stretching us out, hitting that long pass, looping in behind your defense, and sitting there getting the puck between center and the blue line there. Chicago does it better than anybody else. Tampa Bay took that game plan and kind of ran with it and defeated the Wings with it. But I think Chicago has too many guys. They're too big. They're a little bit too physical. And I think they've just been there one too many times. I think they know how it's done. I think they have the wherewithal to get it done. The only question mark, and I think it's for both teams, because I don't think either one of these teams has a really good goaltender. I don't think Ben Bishop's all that great. I think he has his flaws. Corey Crawford's a giant head case. And I had this conversation with my cousin who's a giant Blackhawks fan. He lives in Detroit, grew up on Detroit hockey, but he's a huge Blackhawks fan. He's been a Blackhawks fan since before Roenick and Chelios. And I told him, I was like, I think I would probably take Ben Bishop over Corey Crawford, but I don't know. You know, I think they're both garbage goaltenders. I don't like either one of them. They're both garbage. So I'm going to go Blackhawks over Tampa Bay. And we'll say 7. By the way, the intern just ran in and he said that the I think counter was up to about 72 during that spot. So my bad. My crutch word, apparently.
I blame Jason. Jason Jarvie, the king, started this, and I think if you listen to the podcast, since we recognize that Jason does that, then we've all done it. But it's okay. It's all good. Good job, intern.
Intern Charlie. Good job.
Now, the NBA. Great series approaching.
I think this is the one everybody wanted to see. There's another, I think, but whatever. This is the one everybody wanted to see.
Cleveland, Golden State. Everyone's been talking, blowing this up. I really didn't get the whole LeBron versus Michael thing. It's just one of those things where you can't compare eras. It's a good thing to talk about. It's something you can talk about over the bar, but it's really a tough comparison. But LeBron has carried his team, all credit, into the NBA Finals versus Golden State, who's on fire. Klay Thompson was cleared. He is going to play Game 1. You're going to have Steph Curry. Can he take now the next step and bring it in the NBA Finals? We're all waiting to see. I'm excited because I'm kind of rooting for Golden State because of Draymond Green. If he wins a title in Golden State, there's maybe an avenue of him saying, okay, that challenge has been met. Maybe I can go somewhere else and look for the dollar signs. Cleveland is going to want to prove to say, hey, we haven't won a title since the 60s or whatever, a significant title drought in that city. The closest they got to a title was the Indians in 97. They lost to the Marlins. They're starving for a title. And the whole ordeal with LeBron leaving, he's come back, put the team on his shoulders. Your thoughts? Who is going to walk away with that nice trophy and celebrate at the end of the series?
I think this is going to be a great finals. You've got the league MVP in Steph Curry going against arguably the most dominant player in the NBA right now, LeBron James. This is going to be a fantastic 7 games because I think it's going to go 7. The finals are going to be unbelievable.
Both go 7, yeah.
Yes, this is going to be incredible. It's going to be, right now, the NHL and the NBA, what they're serving to us on a platter is what we've all wanted. It's competitive. It's going to be fierce. It's going to be ferocious. In the end, I think Golden State wins, and I think they win because the Cavaliers just don't have the firepower to match up. Golden State has too many long bodies, too many different body styles and body types to sit there and beat down LeBron. Who does LeBron have? He's got J.R. Smith, who's a walking basket case. All you have to do is get underneath his skin. The guy's going to blow up and explode, and he's going to have to go sit on the bench. If not, he'll be missing games because he'll have too many technical fouls, right? Kevin Love is still nursing an injured shoulder. Kyrie Irving's got the knees of an 80-year-old man. So who do you got? You got LeBron James and his receding hairline. That's all you got. Steph Curry. I think that Klay Thompson. I think Draymond Green. Everything that Golden State is going to throw at Cleveland will be enough. I don't think LeBron has enough in him. I think he has enough to maybe win 3 games. I don't think he has enough to win the 4th. So I think Golden State wins this. I'm going to touch on something you said, too, when you were doing the build-up for the NBA. It is hard to compare eras, and it is difficult, and it shouldn't be done because there will never be anybody like Michael Jordan. Just like I don't know if there will ever be anybody like Magic Johnson. I think the closest you might get is a guy like LeBron James to Magic Johnson. And I think that's probably a more accurate comparison than comparing him to Michael Jordan. LeBron James does a lot of incredible things with the basketball. Passing is one of them. Michael Jordan never really passed the ball. Never really passed it. Even when he got Scottie Pippen, he never really passed it. Scottie Pippen, there were plays that were drawn up for Scottie to get the ball. That's why Scottie Pippen got the ball. It wasn't because Michael Jordan was looking for him. It's just the way that offense worked. It was facilitated through Michael Jordan, and it worked to get guys open at certain spots, and that's why it happened.
Good stuff.
But I think LeBron James, your closest comparison would be Magic Johnson.
Great stuff, Jock. Great opinions. I really believe that you were on point, and I do believe that Golden State, Chicago will walk away with the titles. We shall see, and a lot of debate will happen, too, as a result of these series. I can't wait to talk about it, break it down, and also see how this affects the Detroit teams. Maybe Blasher will be announced by the next podcast. We shall see. Stay with us after the break. Talking a little bit about the Lions, some news and notes, some quick talk about the Lions to end the podcast. Doc and Jock, episode 95, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Definitely check out the guys at the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. Great website. They are unbelievable. They are killing it on Facebook. Give them a like at their Facebook page, Detroit Sports Nation, and definitely check out their website, DetroitSportsNation.com. Our collaboration with them has been excellent, and they continue to be a strong presence here on the podcast because they bring the noise and they have great content. So thank you guys again. We can't thank you enough.
You're the future of our business, and I know when you guys have a podcast like this, our future is in good hands.
You got to check out their stuff. I mean, I'm really impressed by it. You guys have probably one of the better ones I've seen in the country.
Wow.
In a short period of time, you've done good work. Look at me kissing your hand.
I know.
That's right. There can't be enough people showering us with praise.
Kissing our ass.
I love it. Absolutely love it. That's why I love doing this podcast every week. Our chance to
hear it here. Doc likes rim jobs.
Our chance to break down Detroit sports in our own unique way. And finally, cuz after needling and prodding and blowing up the Detroit Sports Nation phones, being like, put us on the main page. Put us on the main page. We have great guests. We do a weekly podcast. We've never stopped. They've put us on the front page of the Detroit Sports Nation website. Jeff Deacon, Jeff Bilbrey, the whole staff, all the writers that have come up. I know Julius Porter recently came on. All the writers at the Detroit Sports Nation. Hopefully one day we get a chance to talk to you. You guys have really helped us, and you finally, after all the hard work, you put us on the main page, and now you've given us a new challenge for us to stay on the main page there at Detroit Sports Nation.
That's the premier website for Detroit sports fans and Detroit sports in general.
Article after article is a great read. You could go no wrong than to go to DetroitSportsNation.com. Other websites are cutting writers. Jeff and the crew at the Detroit Sports Nation are adding writers. They're bringing content. I can't shower them enough with praise. Thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you guys putting us on the front page, and you can go check out our podcast there as well. DetroitSportsNation.com/podcasts with an S. You can find Doc and Jock there every single Monday and Thursday. And also shout out to our boys, Jarvie and Stubbs. They do a great podcast every single Monday. It's a must listen, must download. And thank you to everyone that continues to download this very podcast. All right, cuz OTA's going down. People are looking like, oh, AP showed up at Minnesota. A couple players went out with torn ACLs across the league. It's starting a little bit. Bad news for the Jacksonville player who was drafted. What bad luck. What bad news. But they still signed him. What's a blessing is that, he hurt himself before his contract was signed. They still signed him. He still gets some money, but tough break there. Well, so far for the Lions, relatively calm, relatively decent. We talked about Ehedebo. We kind of joked around a little bit saying, hey, what kind of holdout was that? But, a couple
He's
things.
Not a thug.
Couple things. We
He's
just
not gangster enough.
We just want to hit on real fast.
Not angry.
Cam Newton.
I just keep messing you up. My bad, dude.
No, it's okay. A couple things. Cam Newton signed the deal, and people are now talking, okay, relatively speaking, the Lions have paid a lower price than, these other teams. Tannehill signed for big money. Cam Newton signed for big money. I can only imagine what Russell Wilson's going to sign for, because if these players are worth this, you're talking about more years, more money. Russell Wilson's like cha-ching, bada bing.
What about Andrew Luck, dude? That guy's contract's going to be monstrous, too.
I'm getting paid. So just looking at it, do you think Stafford's contract, relatively speaking, decent right now compared to the escalating prices of Newton and these other players coming up?
Yes. It looks, in hindsight, it looks okay. It looks digestible.
Right. And in two parts, too, because we got him early, and we're all saying you paid him too much as is based on it. But thinking ahead, Stafford is nowhere near worth $110 million or $20 million a season. No. Not worth it yet.
What I'd like to do, and I don't know if we can do this, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a draft of quarterbacks that we could use to start a franchise right now, here today. So that means not looking at what Peyton Manning gave you, but what Peyton Manning will give you down the line. Can we do this? Are you prepared for something like this, or not really?
Yeah, so you're saying the quarterbacks in the league, the 30 quarterbacks, let's redo it and see who would go first, depending on, let's say, the top 10.
Just strictly quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yes, just strictly quarterbacks. To see where Matt Stafford would end up. And we just can we alternate, go back and forth?
Sure.
You want to do that?
Start first.
All right. I don't think there's any question, hands down, you're taking Aaron Rodgers. Based on his lineage of work and what he puts up yearly, his consistency, and just the way he outperforms pretty much everybody else at that position, I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers first.
Okay. Second, obviously, you would go with a player that has a bright future, is a player that got his team to the AFC title game. Didn't perform well, but with the second pick, you'd have to go with Andrew Luck.
I think you're right on. That being said, I think you go with a guy who is young, proven, and has won a championship already, and that's Russell Wilson. I don't think there's any argument there.
Okay. No, very fair. Then you'd have to go with next, a player that's won Super Bowls. A little bit now controversial, but fourth, I would have to go Tom Brady.
I don't have a problem with that. I actually had him fifth just based on his age. But you're absolutely right. Probably going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think fourth, and this is strictly on potential, age, and the ability to get to a Super Bowl, Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, that's a little high based on his season last year. He was inconsistent, didn't make a lot of throws. Your GM status might be perfect for the Lions. You're going to get a letter from the Detroit Lions.
Right.
Welcome to the club.
We'll see how this shakes down.
Fifth, I would go with Phillip Rivers. I think he's a consistent player. I think he's a guy that's a little bit underrated. I know his teams are up and down, but I think a guy like that is a solid starter. He's going to be in San Diego, so I would take him fifth.
That's sixth. It'd be sixth.
Oh, sixth. We're at six now?
Yes.
I can't keep track.
So
okay.
Seventh, I actually had Phillip Rivers 11, but seven, I'm going to go with, I would go toss up here, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco. I'm going to go Big Ben. He's got more titles. Every year, the guy's pretty consistent. He hangs in there, hangs in the pocket, doesn't miss games, picks you up yards, creates gigantic plays downfield with his willingness to take a hit. And like I said, he's won Super Bowls.
Next up, I would have to go with the guy that's had 5,000-yard seasons several times in a row. You can't really discount Drew Brees because of his capability and his work ethic, so I would go him next.
All right. Don't have a problem with that. I think he's up there in age, though, so I'm not looking to necessarily build around him. I would then take Joe Flacco because he's won a Super Bowl. He's got the ability. He has the talent. He can throw the long ball, and he's a proven winner.
Next up, I would go with the player that recently got signed. A great player. I think that you can't discount a player that brings a double threat. Player that can run, player that can throw, and a player that's an emerging leader on the team. You really got to key in on a guy that when the season started off bad, still brought him back, even though they got into the playoffs with a losing record. Unusual. Cam Newton is a quarterback that is a double threat and could be a potential long-term stabilizing force there in Carolina.
So is that number 10, Cam Newton's 10 there?
Cam Newton.
Great. I totally agree with you. I don't have an issue with that. I think Cam Newton would be the next one to be selected there. I'm going to go with Matt Ryan next. I think Matt Ryan has showed the ability, although he hasn't won the big game, I think he has shown the ability to sit there and carry his team and do things with less of a staff than other quarterbacks in the league and still get them just as far. So I'm going to go Matt Ryan.
Okay, Matt Ryan, what number are we at now?
This will be, you're picking 12.
12? Okay. At this spot, I think is the perfect spot for our guy, Matthew Stafford. Number 12. That's the best spot because if you look at the list lower, you got Foles, Cutler, RG3, Alex Smith, Tony Romo. In that class, in that second group of guys, you can legitimately put Stafford as the 12th pick in the draft of players that can come in and contribute. He's going to give you a lot of yards. He's going to be solid. He's going to study. The issue with Stafford is making mistakes, finding that balance of being aggressive and being boring and dinking and dunking. Does he have the ability to check off into the right play? And does he have the ability to lead the team when things are down? More weapons? I believe so. So 12th, in my opinion, is Stafford's spot.
I think you have him way too high. I've got him 3 spots lower. I got him at 15. I got Stafford at 15. I've got Tony Romo going at 12. I'll take Peyton Manning in his advanced age, who might only give you one more year and throws a football like a girl.
Right.
I would take him before I would take Matt Stafford. And then I would take Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who I wanted the Lions to draft the year prior. And then after that, I got Alex Smith, Eli Manning, Andy Dalton, Blake Bortles, Tannehill. And 21 through whoever else, you're all Geno Smith to me.
That's right.
You're all Geno Smith.
Okay, so we're not that far off. I'd say 12, you say 15. And
Either
this is
way,
be
Matt Stafford's in the top 15. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think you agree he's not an elite quarterback.
No, not top 10.
He is somewhere in the middle of the NFL at this time in his career. Okay. I think he's got to win us a playoff game. I think that's really what it comes down to. If he can win a playoff game for this team, I think then we can sit there and we can talk not about him maybe being in the elite category, but moving him up to possibly the top 10.
Okay. And then other news and notes, Joique Bell has been a talking point around town. And looking at him going, you have a new running back. You have a new running back in town, Amir Abdullah, that's going to spell him. You drafted a fullback. I think a lot of people are expecting with the new offensive line, with the retooled line, that Joique Bell can have a better year than last year, where I think he finished around 860 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he had a receiving touchdown with about 322 yards of offensive production catching the ball. With a retooled line, I think that he can have a better season than last year. I just don't know how much better he can be. In evaluating the running back situation, I'm not sure what role they're going to be in. I know they're going to run more. Are they going to be successful? That's going to be key. I really feel like the Lions are going to run more screens. They're going to pass a little bit more, and they're going to pass first to set up the run. Joique Bell, if the Lions can get leads, can be a guy that can be a bruiser late in games and pick up those yards. So I'm hoping that he has a great season. I really believe he has the potential to be a productive back in this league. And with Abdullah and with the retooled line, he has the potential for a good season.
I'm going to go the complete opposite direction. I think this team, with the way that they've drafted and the way that they're constructing this offensive line, I think they're looking to be a more run-heavy team. I think they might start to run the ball maybe more at a 52%, maybe almost up to a 60% clip, and throw the ball at possibly 40%. I think that's kind of what you've seen with dialing Matt Stafford back last year. That being said, and with this retooled offensive line and the production that they'll probably get out of it, because we don't know yet, I think Joique Bell's going to have a better season. He's probably going to have his career year this season. I think he will probably rush for something close to 1,000 yards. And I think the guy is going to produce both in receiving the ball, because like you said, bubble screens, but I think he's going to be their power back. I don't think he's going to have as many receiving yards, but I think he'll break a few more off for a longer play. You have to remember, Joique Bell only had 2.9 yards running the ball last year, or approximately that. That's nothing. That's horrible in this league. For a good running back in this league, you need to be somewhere around 4. So I think Joique Bell does that this year. I think he's their power back, but I think he breaks a few more long ones off. This offensive line helps propel that. And I think with a retooled running back core, with Sir Fumbles a lot, I think that screen game and I think that run game opens up a lot more, and I think it's a lot better.
I laughed when we had our pre-show meeting and that you had a player, Ryan Broyles, on your mind. Did you know, cuz Ryan Broyles and Golden Tate pretty much played the same position? And I think with the acquisition of Lance Moore, I was just curious, why was Ryan Broyles on your mind? I forgot he was even on the team.
Yeah, me too.
Why was he on your mind?
That's why I thought he should be something we should talk about. I wanted to lead the Lions segment off with Ryan Broyles.
I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say nothing, but I'm just going to bring it up and trash it. Ryan Broyles, but here's the reason. They brought in Lance Moore. He didn't make the field last year. He's coming off of 2, not 1, 2 ACL surgeries. Well, come on, man. The guy's having a hard time getting on the field. I really could honestly sit here and say, I don't know if he's going to make the team.
Well, that was how the question was proposed. How do you see he's supposed to be healthy now for the first time in years. How do you see a healthy Ryan Broyles making a contribution as what is deemed to be the 3rd wide receiver option on this team this season? And my response is no.
Lance Moore.
That's Lance Moore's spot.
Yeah.
So now Ryan Broyles is
odd man out.
Yes. When I was looking at the depth chart for this team, Ryan Broyles is the last receiver that you're looking to throw the ball to. So I don't think Ryan Broyles even makes it as a starting option on this team. I think he might be running scout team offenses. I just don't see it happening. I think the time has passed for Ryan Broyles. He had hellacious knee injuries. I think those stunted his career, and I just don't think he had the worth ethic when a new coaching staff came in. I thought he thought that it was going to be given to him, and I just don't think it all worked out for him. And I think he's going to be a scout team player. I don't see him as a 3rd wide receiver option. I don't see him as a 4th wide receiver option. I'm hard-pressed to see him as a 5th wide receiver option. You're going to have to tell me that Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson both had an asteroid fall on them. And then Lance Moore sat there and had his leg bent so far back behind his head while he was pulling some David Carradine sex positions, and he sat there and he tore every ligament in his leg. That's the only way I see Ryan Broyles even touching. Even then, he's your 3rd wide receiver option.
Yeah,
all those things have to happen for him to be your 3rd wide receiver option.
Yeah. We're not going to be crass, but he's going to be the guy.
Oh, I'm very crass. It's how it is.
Well, when Golden Tate gets like a 35-yard run with 15 yards after the catch, he'll be huffing and puffing. He'll be waving his fingers like this, and then Ryan Broyles will come on. So when he needs a spell, that's Ryan Broyles' job.
And at that point, we go bubble screen.
Screen. So, his role I don't see being all that much. So I was fascinated as to why you thought that would be an interesting talking point.
I just thought it was hilarious that I seen this article and it talked about how healthy Ryan Broyles is going to change the offense for this Detroit team. And I was like, are you smoking crack? Have you watched the tape? Have you been here the last couple of years and seen what Ryan Broyles has contributed?
All right. And to end the podcast, I know we want to focus a little bit on some of the new players on the team, some new contributors and what they likely could do in their rookie seasons. So the Lions drafted cornerback Quandre Diggs. Right away, the first thing you look at in a cornerback is his size. So he's only 5'9", which really little dude, which in this in the NFC North is likely going to tell us that he's going to move inside because he's shorter, and a lot of top end cornerbacks and definitely the wide receivers in the NFC North are very talented and very tall. We'll start off with the negatives first. He lacks top end speed. A lot of people in their review of him says has a tendency to open up his hips prematurely for fear of getting beat vertically, can be mismatched by tall receivers no matter where he plays on the field, could struggle against short area speedsters from the slot, has major issues getting off of blocks. And so that's really what comes with individuals who are 5'9". So that's why when he was drafted, we always look like, oh, okay. And we always know there's a little bit of room for growth with these corners because it takes time to learn that position, and there's so many nuances that you can learn, and you don't get it all in that first season.
I'm seeing him a little bit different and this is why I love this podcast with you, why I like doing this with you, because we see things totally different sometimes. Like you're looking at it from the bottom, looking at it from the top, or I'm looking at it from the right side, you're looking at it from the left side. I think he's a skilled guy. I think he's quick, and I think he's instinctual. And I think he has to use those instincts because, like you said, he's at a disadvantage because of his size and his overall speed. But I think he will be our starting nickel corner, and I think that has a lot to do with just the depth chart here. I don't see Bill Bentley fulfilling that role, and I don't see other guys that we've drafted fulfilling that role. So I think he'll be our starting nickel, and I think by the end of the season, I think he'll be in there as a starting slot cornerback. Everybody is very high on this guy. This is Quentin Jammer's brother. He's a 4-year starter out of Texas. He can play with the big boys. I think he has the ability, and I think he has the potential to sit there and by the end of the season be a starting cornerback on this Detroit Lions defense.
Yeah, the Doc and Jock scouting department rates him pretty well, as well in terms of his strengths. They say he's an intelligent player, which, Jim Caldwell definitely wants to stock the team up with intelligent players. Anticipates routes well, attacks the throw, has feet to mirror and chase crossing routes. An issue that he had going into his senior year, and one that I did know before the draft, he had weight issues. He was a little bit on the chunky side going into his senior year, but he lost the weight, and as a result of that, got a little bit faster. So his sophomore and junior year, he was playing at a weight a little bit higher than he should have, but he got that under control. You always wonder when a guy gets his money, what kind of discipline is he going to have? I don't see that to be an issue, but with the Lions, there have been players who've had weight issues in the past. He's a guy that has what the Lions like. And you can tell what they're doing is they like guys who start off a certain way, but they work at it and they get better. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with Diggs. Throughout his time at Texas, he got better. His the number of yards per target decreased his last couple years. So the amount of passing yards that the opposing quarterback would throw went down.
Being able to play at 195 pounds, because that's what they had him at, I believe, his senior year in Texas. Being able to play at that weight and being able to progress and probably play at a weight something closer to 200, 205 pounds, do you see him transitioning and possibly becoming a free safety or maybe even a strong safety?
With learning from Ahedibo, with learning from Slay, with learning from the other cornerbacks, I do believe he's got a lot of potential. But with that potential, you got to really worry about a couple things. Is he going to pick up the Austin Terrell defensive scheme? Haloti Ngata came out earlier this week and was like, damn, I was in this, and this thing is tough to learn. And it's not, and in Austin Terrell's second season, he's not, by all accounts, not scaling it back. He's dialing that bad boy up. So it's going to be tough for rookies to look at his scheme and, know exactly how to handle it.
The reason why I ask you this is the way I see him, just my own projection of him. He's a smaller guy. He's more compact, but he can play at a bigger weight. So he can usually deliver a bigger blow. And going by your scouting report and things that I have seen, he's able to anticipate and attack the ball. So he has the ability to read a play, get to the spot, and then make the play. And that's why I see him projecting as possibly a free safety, just because I don't see him being big enough. And by big enough, I mean tall enough, long enough. But I see him being able to sit there and float around in that back half of the field and just blow up guys. And that's why I asked you that question. I wanted to see where you projected him or where you thought he might end up.
No, I thought him as being a cornerback. Okay. I don't see him going to the safety position as of yet. I see him in the first couple of years being they're trying him out as a cornerback. Mm-hmm. The question also, and the point I was going to make was, how are they going to look now without Sue? Everyone on the defense is coming up with sayings regarding, how we're going to be as a unit without Sue. It's going to be tough because teams now are going to be willing to run the ball more. They're going to be willing to test the cornerbacks because I don't see the sack numbers being as good as they were last year. Sue did a lot of things that weren't measured by stats, causing havoc, causing devastation, getting double teamed. It's going to put a lot of pressure on a lot more of the defenders. And can this team respond to that? That's what I'm fascinated. That's the key thing I want to see early on in the preseason and in the regular season is how the defense adjusts to not having Sue. And what does a 32-year-old Haloti Ngata look like? Does he stay on the field? Is he a guy that's going to be productive? So a strong defensive line, getting sacks, getting pressure, helps cornerbacks greatly because not enough time. Then when there's disruption, then the balls are tipped or there's balls that are fluttery. There's balls that are thrown that aren't great, and you can get interceptions, and the Lions took advantage last year. Is that going to happen this year? not as much, but I do believe that unit has some regularity, has some familiarity with each other, and can still do some damage on defense.
I think Ziggy Ansah, because of everything you just said, not having Sue, having Haloti Ngata in there who is sitting there picking up the scheme, not so much trying to pick up the scheme, but getting reacclimated to the scheme. I think a lot more is going to be put on Ziggy Ansah. Don't be surprised if he doesn't have double-digit sack numbers this year. I think they're going to lean heavily on him. That's going to help drive and help push that offense or that defensive line and make it maybe not as good as it was last year with everything that Sue did, but I think it's going to be competitive.
To end the podcast, what storylines should we start peeking at as fans going into the preseason after the OTAs and training camp? We should obviously look at the defense without Sue. Mm-hmm. We're looking at Stafford. We're looking at how Megatron looks on the field with that wide receiver core. Anything else we should look at?
Look at the running backs. Okay. Look at the running back core. Right now, Joique Bell is not participating in OTAs. He had a lot of offseason surgeries, and he doesn't want to discuss what exactly happened with those. So watch that. Watch how Abdullah acclimates himself. See if his fumble problem from college followed him into the pros, and see if he was able to learn how to hold on to the football. You got to remember, Tiki Barber was almost out of football because he couldn't hold on to the damn thing. He kept spilling the pill every time he touched the ball. So it can be corrected. It can be fixed. So if they were able to sit there and sit with Abdullah and get him ready to go, and he's able to hold on to the ball, I think we might have something there. And I'll probably look totally wrong with that draft pick. I'll look like a complete ass. And I'm okay with that. But watch that. Watch the running back core. I'm really interested to see how this running back core shapes out. I think we know what we've got with the wide receivers. We've got those names out there. I think we know what we have. And also watch Eric Ebron. See if the drops have followed him into this offseason, into the OTAs. Everything that you're reading coming out of camp right now is that he's still having a problem catching and holding onto the ball. So hopefully he can get that figured out. Otherwise, that's looking like a bad pick at 10, especially when we needed other things. And there were 2 Pro Bowl players that you and I both scouted and picked out and said they would fit perfect here because of the situation that ended up evolving with Ndamukong Suh.
Great podcast, Cuz. Breaking down all things Detroit sports and other things, other important topics.
Like New Kids on the Block.
And it was a good time. I wish you a great trip. Get back safely. Hopefully we have a lot to talk about. And you come back safe, refreshed, and we can continue to break down the happenings around the sporting landscape and in Detroit. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon.
Yes, for all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
Signing off on Doc and Jock podcast number 95. Go check out our website to support us free, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Hooray, boobs. Go Tigers. You hear it here. Doc likes rim jobs.
Ooh, baby. I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.